Hello artist! I would like to show you how to create aurora borealis or a northern lights landscape. So let's get started.
Jen Arani is our inspiration for this project. She focuses on the night sky, the galaxy, and my favorite, aurora borealis, or the northern lights. Let's take a little trip to the North and South Pole to see these beautiful colors in the sky.
To get started on my aurora borealis northern lights landscape, I'm going to use a sheet of paper that's a little bit heavier than copy paper. I'm going to have a permanent marker, a white crayon, washable markers, a cup of water, and a paintbrush if you have one, and some table salt or any kind of salt will work. As an artist, I want to think about the foreground, middle ground, background, and how much sky that I would like my northern lights to show in. So the first thing I'm going to think about is the mountain ridge and how I want it to kind of hit right in the middle. So when you're drawing mountains, I recommend practicing with your finger first and doing irregular mountains. Try not to make them all the same size. So I'm just going to start low, come up, and it can be jagged. Remember, these mountains are made out of rocks. And then up, maybe that one's higher, and then it goes off the page. We're going to draw a horizon line just below the mountain ridge, all the way across the paper. And then you have a couple of options of what you could do to show the foreground, middle ground, background. I'm going to do a path that kind of goes from the background up to the foreground and it gets larger. So I'm going to add a dot, and then I'm just going to kind of do a wavy line, but you can do any kind of line you would like. You could just add hills or lines showing that the ground is broken. So after you get your line drawn, you want to make it closer together here, and then it gets further apart as it gets closer to you because the path or the river is wider. So I always start back here in the background, and then I start it closer, and then as I approach the middle ground, it gets further away. Now notice this parallel line, I'm curving the same way it's curving. And then as I get closer to the foreground, it just comes off the page here, and it looks like it shows perspective or depth in the picture plane. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the shadow lines to the tops of the mountains, or to the peaks. And I want the sun to look, the light to look like it's hitting from the right, and then the shadows are on the left. So there's a couple of ways to do this. So the first thing I could do is I could start at a dip or a valley, and I could slide down the mountain, and then I could walk my way up to the trail to the top of the peak of the mountain. Or I could start at the peak, walk my way down, and then climb back up over to the next mountain range. So let's see what that looks like. So here's the dip. I could slide down, and then I could curl my way up all the way back up to the peak. So it looks like there's a little trail going up. Or I could start at the peak here and slide down and then climb back up to this next mountain. Now this peak, it doesn't really, the valley is, or the dip is over here, so I can just slide on down and then go kind of back up. You're trying to give the illusion that the mountains are closer and further back. So here we go. I'm gonna start here at this dip. I'm gonna slide down, and then I'm going to really climb up that one. Here's a dip. I'm going to slide down, and I'm just going to let that go off the page. As an artist today, you may want to add more mountains. So I could add another mountain here, and then I could add the side to create the shadow there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create hatching lines. When you create hatching lines, you want to stick with a diagonal. The further apart you have them, the lighter the shadow, but the lines that when they get closer together, they create a darker value or a darker shadow. So I'm going to take this line here of the mountains and I'm going to bring it down into my section that I just created. So the closer the lines are, the darker the value. So take your time on this one. After you get, I'm going to go a little bit quicker, but I would like you to take your time and really create some interesting hatching lines by taking your time creating your shadows. Now you could create more. So this one I think I'm just gonna go ahead and fill it in, and that can just be another little cave or something. I could add some more texture to my mountains. I could, you know how a mountain sometimes has a little valley? I could add that in and add some more hatching lines. That looks interesting. And then just add some random texture lines, diagonals, going a different direction. So these went top to bottom here, and now I'm going top to bottom this way on this side. As an artist, your mountain ranges should look different than mine. When you're finished with designing your mountains, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to add something down here in your foreground. So I'm just going to show you trees. So I'm going to start with vertical lines. So here's a short vertical. Remember, vertical is up and down. This one's going to be a little bit taller because it's getting closer. And then the ones in the foreground are just going to be big because they're the closest one to you. Next, you want to add branches to your trees. You can do in different ways. I recommend starting with the tree in the background. You can do the triangle tree, just giving it some branches. You could do the lines diagonal going up, and they get smaller as they get closer to the top. You can create your own type of trees. Once you're done adding your trees, you can move on to your sky. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my white crayon, and I am going to add some stars. You could do comets or constellations. That could be interesting. Once you are done with your white crayon, and if you kind of rotate your paper a little bit, you should be able to see where the crayon wax stayed onto your paper. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think about my galaxy and the northern lights and what colors I'm going to use. So as an artist, you may want to consider the Angelus colors, which are 3 colors next to each other on the color wheel. Those colors are going to create a nice blend when you add water if you choose to. So today I'm going to use pink, purple, and blue. So I'm substituting red for pink, and then I'm going into purple and blue. So you can see on this one, I did the northern lights kind of flowing down. As an artist, you could do the northern lights so they're just coming up. So here I did yellow to green to blue and then to purple. So I used 4 colors, and I started here yellow, green to blue to purple. And down here I did pink first. You always want to do your lightest color marker first, and then purple, and then blue. Next, after you do this part, you can add a little bit of water to your marker. And since it's washable marker, it's going to turn into watercolors. And I'm trying to touch my pink first and activate the pink to turn into watercolor. And then I'm going to blend into the purple and the blue. Now you'll notice that you can still see my crayon lines. The crayon is wax, so it creates a barrier between the paper and the watercolor or the marker. So you're always going to see your crayon, stars or constellations. Next, if you have it, you can sprinkle on a little salt. I did cover the holes in my salt shaker. And just add a little sprinkle of salt into the water while it's still wet. And what's going to happen, it's going to soak up some of the water and some of the color and leave different values or light spots on your paper and create a really cool effect in the Northern Lights sky. Artists, I hope you enjoyed this lesson and I can't wait to see you again.